Yeah, dude. Libtards are bots. They get the software update. They get the Palestine software update, and that yeah, bro. Yeah, that's what's going on. Yeah, they get the current event update. Genius. I just like I hate this conversation, this one in particular, because it's just so overtly bad faith. Like when conservatives talk about the current thing, they don't even try to like dress it up or disguise it like it's a good faith argument, because they don't have to. They don't fucking have to. They can fucking belittle libtards as much as they want, and none of them will like call each other out over it ever. And so when I have this conversation with these people, I typically just don't engage with their framing, their argument at all, because it's fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid. Like, yeah, bro, we talk about the current thing. You know who else talks about current things? Republicans, conservatives, Nazis, Nazi racist people, fascists. All of these people talk about, and leftist, of course. Everybody talks about the current thing. This is not exclusive to libtards, and you have failed to like explain to me, make me understand why this is something that is exclusive to the woketards. Alright, what up, Bone Smashers? What up, Moggers? What a beautiful day it is. It is raining right now. The stream may crash. I don't know, but let's just let's get right into Jimmy Talks, okay?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to
What's
Jimmy
up?
Talks. So, with
Hey,
all the
Jimmy
stuff
Talks.
that's been going on in the past 5 or 6 years, it's like an information overload. So, let's take a step back and look at all this analytical.
It's
and
not
by all
so
the stuff
bad.
that's happened, I mean, really since 2020. We had COVID, we had Ukraine, we had all the censorship during the Biden era, we had mass immigration at an unprecedented scale that we've never seen before. We had the October 7, 2023 Israel attack,
What's
and then we
censorship?
have Trump getting into office and bombing Iran, and now we've got a consensus for war with Iran right now, and just a whole bunch of shit. And along the way, there's been lots of propaganda to try and get you sucked into all of that. So, I do want to get into the mechanisms of how the regime, or what have you, whatever you want to refer to it as, how they like to shape thought processes. Or, like the title of this video is called The Current Thing. So, I'm sure you have all seen this before. You've seen people in your life, maybe it's your coworker, your family, your friends, whatever, right? You've seen some of them before. And let's picture COVID. Let's go back.
Yeah, this video is titled, by the way, The Psychology of the Current Thing. Okay, and conservatives, they bring this up a lot. You know, oh, the woketards, they just care about the current thing, That's all, they just talk about the current thing, and it's like, yeah, things be happening currently, and then we be talking about them currently. What the, like, this is something that conservatives do a lot, which is they take something that's normal and they make it seem weird, like talking about current events is like a vector for making fun of someone if you talk about current events. Okay, you know, they and then what they do is they like to boil it down to, they reduce it to, this is all you talk about. All you talk about is current events. And it's just not true. Okay, leftists, they talk about current events. They talk about past events as well. Such is politics.
Okay, before I even start. You've seen them during COVID, you thought they were totally rational and normal, and then the next thing you know, they are like screaming about masks, and they're like, if you didn't get the jab, you know, the TV said that everybody's gonna fucking die if they don't get this experimental, really rushed vaccine that alters your body a lot. And, oh, by the way,
alters your body a lot. Yeah, no, man. A vaccine is just a dead version, or a less active version of the virus. And so, if you are not an immunocompromised person, you should take the vaccine, because it protects you from catching it, the actual virus, and it protects the people around you from receiving it from you. Okay, so people were shouting about that, okay, they were being annoying about it, it's because it was important. Okay, people's lives were on the line. And you guys back then were like, no, it doesn't matter. No, but this won't kill anybody. This will result in nobody. They are trying to mind control us. They're trying to implant a chip in my bloodstream. It's like, no, man. This has always been about, like, protecting the most vulnerable in our society, okay? There are people who cannot take vaccines of most any sort, is my understanding, but it depends on how immunocompromised you are. You know, as I've said in previous videos, I'm not a medical professional. I'm no doctor of any kind. So, you know, take what I say with a grain of salt. Do your own research. It's like I always say. But that is my understanding of it. People that are immunocompromised, they can't get the vaccines themselves, so they rely on other people taking it so that they don't get sick. Anyway.
In this, or you've even seen some articles saying that this could be harmful for you, you're a bad person, right? But then, right after that, Ukraine came into play, and suddenly it was...
Yeah, there are some articles of about how vaccines are bad for you. Yeah, this is because there is some truth to it. Vaccines often have side effects, and they can harm you. It's a problem. Okay, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get the vaccine. That doesn't mean that at all. And anyway, you do need to get vaccinated because, again, even if it has these side effects, even if it can even marginally kill people, okay, like the 1 in 100,000, okay, even if it kills people, it's still better overall because it keeps all of us healthy, and it stops people who are immunocompromised from dying.
Off right after that, and it's like, okay, well, actually, now I'm a geopolitical strategist. I understand 30 and 40 years worth of Eastern Europe for you. You're a bad person, right? But then, right after that, Ukraine...
Oh, yeah, I also wanted to mention that the CDC, there was overwhelming consensus within the medical community that the COVID-19 vaccines were safe, that they did not result in deaths at any higher rate than most other vaccines, especially considering how fast they had to put it through trials. Okay, like what conservatives say about this is true. The COVID-19 vaccine, they had to get it out fast because the virus was spreading fast. So they had to get the fucking vaccine out. Okay? So they rushed it through clinical trials, and it performed well. So they were like, okay, you know, time for public distribution. Like, there's no time like the present, you know? And what do you know? It was actually, you know, a very safe vaccine that didn't result in more deaths than, you know, comparable vaccines for other viruses and diseases. Yeah, crazy. Okay, anyway, now let's hear what he has to say about Ukraine.
You've even seen some articles saying that this could be harmful for you. You're a bad person, right? But then, right after that, Ukraine came into play, and suddenly it was mask off right after that, and it's like, okay, well, actually, now I'm a geopolitical strategist. I understand 30 and 40 years worth of Eastern European military geopolitical, USSR and Russia, and they go all the way back in Ukraine.
Okay, I see what he's saying. So he's saying that when the Ukraine war started, the libtards, the woketards, suddenly stopped wearing their mask, and they stopped talking about it. Well, that's just not really true, man. People did continue wearing their mask throughout the pandemic, even when there were, like, big events like the invasion of Ukraine. People were still doing that. People were still talking about it. You are making this up. You are building a straw man.
Ukraine needs to be free, and like, wait, what are you talking about? How do you know all this? Then suddenly it's, you know, free Palestine, you know, and actually those people do have my sympathy. They really do. But it's like the next thing that they move over to, now I'm a geopolitical master.
Okay. So I think that he's sort of correct here when he says that, like, there are a lot of people out there that really have no knowledge of like world history, right? And like the conditions prior to the present, which like kind of influences, creates these conflicts. Okay, so like the Ukraine war, Israel Palestine, these things have decades and decades and even hundreds of years of history to them, and it's a lot to parse. Okay, it's a lot of information to sift through. But anyway, you know, what he is doing here is just fucking smarmy, annoying lib shit. Okay, this is unironically what liberals do, and it's fucking just annoying and like snark. It's snarky. Okay, it's like, yes, there are people who are just now learning about these issues. Okay, let's not chastise them for wanting to learn, for wanting to talk and educate others and have discussions and conversations. Let's not do that. Okay, that's not productive. That's not good. I am a believer in open dialogue. Okay, in free speech. So you're not gonna catch me, fucking being a dick for just bringing up certain topics. Okay, like, you're just talking about the current thing. You don't know anything about this. You don't know fucking dick about this. Like, no, man. When somebody starts talking to you about something, and you get the feeling that, you know, maybe they just learned about it, maybe they don't, they have a very superficial understanding of it, that should be like a light going off above your head. Okay, that should be like an aha moment. Because when you meet a person like that, that is an opportunity. That is an opportunity to educate them, to have a productive discussion. Maybe if they come from a different like worldview, a different political perspective from yourself, even if they're just learning about this topic, it could be a learning opportunity for you as well. Okay, because you can get their perspective on it, their angle. Okay, so that's how this shit works. You can keep chastising people, demeaning them, because they're like libtards and you don't like what they're talking about, but it's stupid, man. It's stupid, it's unproductive, and only the right gets to get away with shit like this, okay? Unironically. Like, imagine if a liberal said this. Imagine if I said this, right? People would understandably make fun of me. They would say that I'm like gatekeeping. They would call me smarmy, right? I'd be like a Bill Maher type, you know, a liberal that sniffs his own farts. That's what I would be. That's what I would be labeled. Okay, this motherfucker isn't gonna get labeled that. I guarantee you, if I scroll down to his comments, everybody's gonna be like, yeah, the fucking libtards. They don't know nothing. They don't know nothing. They just fucking talk about the current thing. They just talk about the current thing.
Of the Middle East, and I know everything that's working over there. Blah blah blah. It's like, hold the fuck up. Why are you thinking like this, right? How did you suddenly become an expert on everything? Let's look at it like a computer. You click the button, and then the internet pulls up. You click the internet button, right? I don't know, whatever browser you use, okay? But when you use a computer and you click the browser you want to use, there's not like lag time. Maybe a little bit, but it'll pull right up. You know, you type in Google, you maybe wait half a second, and then Google comes up. You know, there's no lag time when they start switching these thought processes.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah, and then you can when they start switching these thought processes. Dude, what I'm trying to understand what this made-up scenario in his head even is. Okay, because I've talked about this before. Conservatives, they do this thing where they make up a scenario in their mind, in their mind's eye, to be mad at. Okay, to be upset at. And that's obviously what's going on here, but I'm just not really comprehending what this situation looks like in his head. You're having a conversation with someone over the course of many months, like as these events happen, and they're like switching topics, and that upsets you because they're not focusing on one world event for years at a time. Like, what, or is this like one short conversation and they're like parkouring to different topics? Because I mean, I see that happen sometimes, but like not really, and not in like a disjointed fashion. Usually. Okay, and also when I do see that, it's always conservatives doing it, but I would say that that's just because of who I am and the content that I make. So, anyway, basically, this shit doesn't even really make any sense from the perspective of like, oh yeah, I'm making something up in my head to be mad at. You know, it just
internal reflection that you can see or maybe think of. You know, it's kind of just like, again, I'm going to compare this to a computer. It's like downloading a new software. It's a software update. It's an automatic update. You're in the middle of a game and your freaking computer just like turns off because it's like, we need to update Windows. It's like, God, that shit happens to me. It pisses me off. But no, really, psychologists.
Yeah, dude. Libtards are bots. They get the software update. They get the Palestine software update, and yeah, bro. Yeah, that's what's going on. Yeah, they get the current event update. Genius. I just like I hate this conversation, this one in particular, because it's just so overtly bad faith. Like when conservatives talk about the current thing, they don't even try to like dress it up or disguise it like it's a good faith argument, because they don't have to. They don't fucking have to. They can fucking belittle libtards as much as they want, and none of them will like call each other out over it ever. And so when I have this conversation with these people, I typically just don't engage with their framing, their argument at all, because it's fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid. Like, yeah, bro, we talk about the current thing. You know who else talks about current things? Republicans. Conservatives, Nazis, Nazi racist people, fascists. All of these people talk about, and leftist, of course. Everybody talks about the current thing. This is not exclusive to libtards, and you have failed to, like, explain to me, make me understand why this is something that is exclusive to the woketards. I'm trying to understand,
specifically
bro.
As mass formation psychosis. But in political terms, it is just the psychology of the NPC. The NPC is a non-player character. In video games, it's the side characters.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
the computers are bots.
Dude,
so,
we all know what an NPC is. Okay, your audience is mostly probably like 18 to 25 and like 25 to 35 year olds. We know what an NPC is, bro. You don't have to explain this shit.
The managed decline of our civilization and the stuff that I talk about all the time on this channel, we have to just, let's remove our bias. We'll try to.
An NPC is a non-player character.
We have to look objectively at how the regime engineers all of these, air quotes, current things, so that they can weaponize the good parts of people. Like, people have human empathy, that's a good thing. But they weaponize it, and they also use it to distract the public from how our country is just being gutted from the inside out.
Wait, but I thought that empathy was, like, bad, because, like, it's, like, suicidal or whatever. I thought that's what it was. Or I'm sorry. Empathy is good when you use it on other white people, right? Is that it?
But anyways,
gotcha.
Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video with COVID and all that, the mask, let's look at
it. But when you use it on brown people, that's bad. That's not
COVID,
good.
because this is really just the biggest psychological operation that people have lived through that they may or may not even be aware of. So, not even the virus. I'm not even talking about the virus itself. Analytically speaking, the response to COVID was the most effective psyop in human history. It just, to me, it functioned as a compliance test. The people who designed the narrative needed to measure the exact stress points that were required to make a populace of relatively free people to surrender their civil liberties really fast. If you remember all around the world, the U.S. wasn't really that bad, to be honest. It still wasn't good. But there's like Australia, there's like COVID camps and shit. And there's just, in other countries, they were going ape shit. But there's still a lot of censorship here in the U.S., especially online. Lots of scrubbed articles that you can't really find anymore. I even made a video on COVID, and I had to like use Wayback Machines to even pull up my sources. And like, I was reading through archived studies, and all these articles on the news would get deleted and re-uploaded. It was a whole lot of sketchy shit. But anyways, what did they do exactly during COVID? Well, it was actually quite simple. They created a moral binary. Binary meaning there's two. The first part, you were either perfectly compliant with the regime's mandates, you stood 6 feet apart, and you wore 3 masks and a hazmat suit and a painter's mask to Walmart, or you are designated a threat to public health. You are a grandma killer, literally. We should lock you up in jail. You know, we watched people sanitize their groceries. Like, they would take the box off the shelf and then spray the box down. Or other people, they would report their neighbors and shit. They're having a church gathering. We need to call the police, guys. I'm going to post about it on Reddit afterwards, too. I'm going to get a lot of updates. Like, what? You know, basically what they did here was that they were demanding your total submission to everything. But then, let's fast forward 2020 to 2022. Fast forward to that, and a switch was flipped. And then that COVID narrative, it just kind of evaporated. Nobody gave a fuck anymore because the media stopped talking about it. What did happen was Ukraine. Well, the virus didn't exactly disappear, but the media focus did. Now, the public was instantly directed. They had all of their energy directed to an anxiety of Vladimir Putin crossing into Ukraine. Like that has nothing to really do with us. You know, why did we flip the script so much? I thought the COVID thing was a lot more important.
Wait, it has nothing to do with us? Huh? You do realize who our greatest allies are, right? Historically, our greatest ally. Do you think it's Israel? So I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I know you don't think that. I know you don't think that. Okay, nobody fucking thinks that anymore. Look, I'll stop being vague. Okay, I'll be specific. Our greatest allies, historically, have been the Europeans, the Europores. Okay? And in Europe, there is this fun little country called Germany, or as they call it, Deutschland. Okay? And Deutschland, they don't like Russia so much. They don't like it. I mean, they don't... You know, Germany, they try to be nice to everyone, you know, given what happened and all. But, you know, Russia, they don't like Russia. Russia is a threat. It is a threat. And Russia is not just a threat to Germany, but broader Europe, and especially Eastern Europe. Okay? But the important thing to remember here is that Germany is a member of NATO. Okay, NATO. And because of that, we couldn't really ignore the Ukraine situation, even though Ukraine is not in NATO. Okay? So, that's what happened, okay? That's why it mattered that our country got involved. Our allies were understandably feeling threatened by the invasion of a country that is proximally close to them. So, yeah. But anyway, again, the idea that, like, you know, coverage of COVID evaporated, as he said, disappeared, it just didn't happen. Okay, after the invasion, there was still coverage of COVID. It slowed down because with the vaccine rolling out, people stopped dying quite as much. Okay, people started dying quite a bit less, and things were getting better. Things were looking up with COVID. That, you know, unfortunately, as you probably are aware, when it comes to the media, good news doesn't really sell as well as like sensational, fear-mongering, stuff like that. So that's why, okay? That's why the coverage slowed down. But again, it didn't, like, disappear. Okay, people were still talking about COVID, I assure you. I remember, I was there. And actually, it was in 2021 when my place of work got a mask mandate. Okay, it was like, it was the summer of 2021 or something. So we were well into COVID at that point. Okay, but it was still getting enough, like, attention that, that my workplace was like, okay, we need to do a mask mandate. Anyway.
You know, the exact same demographic, though, that demanded your termination, you know, you should die or we should put you in jail for refusing a medical mandate, was then suddenly...
Put you in jail? Source? Source? What the fuck are you talking about, man? Who went to jail over that? I'm not even... you know, maybe he's correct. I don't know. Maybe there was some state that did that shit. I don't know. But, I don't know what the fuck you're referring to, and anyway, your employer can fire you for any reason, at any time. So, you know, is it wrong to fire someone, take away their livelihood, because they, like, didn't want to put the mask on? Right? They didn't want to put the collar on? Yeah, well, I probably wouldn't do that, but I don't know. Again, it was a global pandemic where, like, hundreds of thousands of people were dying, bro.
These are typically the Redditors and the progressives and socialists. They were then demanding that you send hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars to Vladimir Zelensky. It didn't actually really go to the Ukrainian soldiers or the average Ukrainian. It was just being pocketed by all these corrupt officials. So let's take a step back for a second. When you study the pattern, the current thing, as I call it, always relies on, again, the binary system.
As you call it, as everyone call it. It's not just you, bro. It's not just you. There are a lot of people that say that shit. And it's stupid. It's fucking stupid when anyone says it, but it's so fucking funny that you're like, as I call it. as I came up with. Like, yeah, man. Yeah, you're so unique. You're such a special snowflake.
The first one is it absolutely mandates the hatred for a designated person, whether they're foreign or domestic. That's an enemy of the state now. But then the other side of it is it also requires the American citizen to sacrifice their own national interest for a global objective. Remember, 2 weeks to stop the curve? Everybody just stay inside, stay inside. Well, how long did that last? They didn't. They always go back on their words. So before I continue more, let me get into the biggest...
Yeah, man, the government be lying. The government be lying. Wow. Wow, so crazy. Yo, I can't believe that the government would lie to stop people from, freaking out about a global pandemic. That's so crazy.
The biggest
can't believe they would do that.
Operations of all time, our so-called special relationship with our greatest ally. So again, removing all bias here, purely from an analytical standpoint, money, intelligence sharing, stuff like that. The contradictions are very glaring. It's a one-sided relationship, obviously. The American public, though, we are conditioned from birth to view the state of Israel as an unbreakable, sacred priority. We are taxed billions of dollars. It's just money that's printed out of thin air, by the way, so it actually makes your life worse because your purchasing power slowly becomes less and less. That's all inflation, by the way. It's to subsidize their national defense, though. So when you look at this...
that is part of inflation. Yeah, I don't even know if that's a majority of inflation. I don't think it is. Okay. You need to be a VTuber to avoid death threats? Nah, I haven't gotten any death threats recently. Here, let's check. Let's find out. Go to manage dashboard. And then it's right here, held. Oh, goddamn. Yeah, see? No death threats today. Or really, within the last few days. Genius. Yeah, see? No death threats. Yay! Okay, anyway, what was he saying? I forgot. I had a point.
That's all inflation, by the way. It's to subsidize
yeah. So I wanted to quickly go over inflation, okay? Because I've talked about inflation a lot. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But basically... inflation is not just caused by new currency in the system. In fact, I think that is probably mostly secondary, or even like tertiary. Is that the right word? I don't know. Don't look up that word. I might be using it incorrectly. Okay. Anyway, inflation is caused by get this. Stay with me now. Inflation is caused by companies raising their prices. Okay. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Companies be like, we could be making more money off of this product if we just raise the price. What do you think about that, shareholders? And then they're all like, yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah, do it yesterday. Okay, and then they do it, and then the price goes up, and then the consumer is like, this is inflation. It must be because of brown people. That must be
national defense, though. So when you look at this, you see a lot of cognitive dissonance that's required to maintain this narrative. The regime actively dictates that the borders in the United States, whatever. Mass deportations, whatever. This is just economic units, right? A wall, that's really expensive, buddy. We can't really do that, man. Also, that's racist. Like, what are you talking about? Yet, for our greatest ally, the rules are...
The wall is stupid because these illegal immigrants that you want to, like, stop from getting into the country, they don't enter the country illegally. They don't. 90% of fucking illegal immigrants, they come here legally. A fucking border wall isn't gonna stop them.
Are totally inverted. Over there,
they come here legally.
There's bad guys. Deportations, we're on it immediately. We've had your number for 3 hours. We already know exactly where you are. We're going to deport you. Or maybe throw you in a hole somewhere. And we're paying for all that. Why are the rules inverted? Right. Well, obviously, because they want it to be that way. It's basically just a structural humiliation. The regime takes all of your money. They extract your wealth to finance another country's security. Instead of getting rid of, like, the open-air refugee camps that we have in America or mass deportations, if you apply basic logic here and you ask why Texas doesn't have the same security apparatus, like a big wall or something like Israel, well, obviously the system is just immediately reacts with hostility. We've seen all these crazy things. Trump's passing anti-Semitism laws and yada yada. You're smeared as anti-Semitic too, just for asking questions. Like, seriously, you might even be, if you're big enough, professionally targeted as well as socially ostracized. And a lot of this is changing, but that was...
So who did you vote for, man?
30, 40, even 50 years now. Boomers. Israel has boomers in a chokehold, right? So this double standard is perfectly summarized by one of my favorite words. It's called anarcho-tyranny. Basically what this means is that the state deliberately fosters anarchy by refusing to prosecute actual criminals. Let's look at the whole entire Epstein thing and everybody that was involved and not really doing anything about that. And meanwhile, BLM, we just let cities burn, and we even got rioters that were bailed out at the time, and we're opening the borders up to cartels during the Biden regime, and there's probably a bunch of them, and all these
those weren't riots.
Shitholes. And if you go to a major city, that's just like common for, I don't know, like 10, 15, 20, maybe even more people to just run into
Words
a store and take
meaning.
everything and leave. It's like you can't stop 40 people from looting the shelves, but we don't really care about that, Simultaneously, though, it operates as a tyranny against the law-abiding citizen. We went over the anarcho, now we're going to the tyranny. So, for example, if you defend your property from someone trying to break in, or if you dare to criticize the current thing at let's just say a school board meeting. I don't think the kids should be wearing masks. The FBI and the police are already at your door. The justice system is no longer a mechanism for order like justice is supposed to be. It's now a weapon that's used exclusively against the political dissidents. And this weaponization also extends to all the foreign entanglements, and that's putting it lightly, an entanglement, overseas. Look at Gaza, look at Iran, look at Ukraine. The American public is...
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it an entanglement. I would call it bombing innocent people and killing them for resource extraction and exploitable migrant labor.
Aggressively maneuvered towards a global conflict that has zero connection to the U.S. Constitution or making our lives better. They want you emotionally invested in the defense of foreign borders, like in Israel, while ignoring remember the big chemical spills in East Palestine, Ohio? Remember how no one just, fuck it, who cares? Dirty water in Flint, Michigan, or all the fentanyl that's in our country and the opioid crisis. And
yeah, no, man, people have been talking about that. People have been talking about that for a long time. And Flint, Michigan it's interesting that you bring that up, man, because did you know that Flint, Michigan is a place where black people were pushed into living? Did you know that? Wow. And then it just so happens that they started putting lead in the water because it was cheaper. Wow. In all seriousness, no, I believe the situation in Flint, Michigan has gotten better. And there's not so much lead in the water anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, fuck all that. What about the Chinese sending drugs here and the cartels?
So that would be a reason why people have stopped talking about it.
America, whatever. What about mass deportations? Whatever. Seriously? They frame these foreign conflicts, not all the stuff I just talked about that affects you on a daily matter. They frame these foreign conflicts as a moral imperative. We need to save democracy. We need to save democracy. They sound like a fucking robot. In Ukraine. Ukraine literally suspended elections and
we have to liberate their people.
I don't even have anything personally against Ukraine or Ukrainians, but I'm like,
we have to liberate their natural resources into our hands.
A lot of it is actually a lot of wealth transfer, especially COVID. My goodness, all these family businesses were shut down. All the money went to Walmart and Amazon.
Wait, wealth transfer?
Those family-run businesses that were in business
You're starting to sound like a commie, bro.
But moreover, with the wars that I was just
I don't like that.
Look at the defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. They get to make a shit ton of money. They get to liquidate their old inventory and secure some big taxpayer-funded contracts. So when you, the viewer, because you're probably smart if you're watching this video, I don't know you personally, but regardless, if you notice these things, anyways,
I'm a genius.
You may be thinking, like, why do people fall
I'm
for
a
this
big
shit?
brain
This is pretty
genius.
retarded. And it's not just, people are stupid. Kind of, but that's not really the whole entire reason. It's a little bit more complex than that. So how does the system manufacture public consent for the looting of our country? Well, it starts at the top. And these NGOs, which are non-governmental organizations, which is just a very easy way to get around a bunch of laws and stuff, basically, for private citizens and groups being able to influence the government. Like, oh, we're actually non-governmental. See? Our wording, that's actually, we're not part of the government. Hee hee. Sure. Also, there's a lot of think tanks. Just such a fucking useless people, right? Ivory tower complexes, basically. NGOs and the think tanks. You have to look at these first. It starts from the top and it trickles down. So groups like the World Economic Forum and the Atlantic Council and also the ADL, which, by the way, doesn't pay taxes, they fund a lot of these scripts. And they do this years in advance. They are in their thinking that it's wargaming. They're thinking of all the different ways this could go right or it could go wrong. They do this for years in advance. These NGOs act as the bridge between the globalist capital markets and systems. I'm going to get into that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself here. And they facilitate this with the public mind, though. They fund the research, and then they draft the talking points, and then they launch the AstroTurf activism campaigns. Sorry, I don't like to edit out my misspeaking stuff. It sounds lazy and dumb, but I want it to sound like I'm talking to you. But anyways, when I said globalist capital, what I'm talking about now, and I'm American, so I'm going to talk about America, is corporate America. A lot of these places are actually then forced into compliance through a financial cartel. And that's why you see all the big companies go woke all at once. Like when we notice in June, they all have their gay pride flags up, but then the next month they completely take them off. Let me tell you why. Mega asset managers, BlackRock, Vanguard, all of the, State Street and stuff like that, the massive companies, Apple, Amazon, Nike, they all use ESG.
Yeah, stupid liberals are always falling for corporate pride. Am I right? They definitely do not see through it as an attempt to, make more money. Because supporting gay people is still the popular thing to do in America. Yeah, stupid libtards. They don't know. They don't know any better.
These are environmental, social, and governance metrics. So this dictates corporate behavior. So, for example, if a CEO doesn't instantly change his company's logo to match the current thing, or, put up a Ukraine flag during the war or a Free Palestine shirt, their ESG score goes down, and then the institutional investment is choked off. It is a top-down financial extortion. Not saying that these people or companies are innocent in any sort of way. They are also very compliant in this as well by not just fighting back, but that's what they do. We're just looking at this analytically, right? Doesn't mean I'm running cover for them. But anyways, they all do this. Once the narrative is then set by the NGOs and enforced by BlackRock and all the big asset manager companies, the intelligence agencies push this to the public. This is old, this is nothing new. During the Cold War, the CIA ran Operation Mockingbird, and it literally recruited journalists and editors and Hollywood producers to embed state propaganda into the news and entertainment sectors. We have a lot of movies that are like pro-war. Not that I'm totally even against war. We need to have that in the world sometimes.
Oh, we're not against war. Okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, only when you need the war. Okay. Did we need the Iraq War? Did we need to meddle with the Russians in Kabul? Actually, that one is arguably more valid than most of our other conflicts, since, you know, they were occupying the city. Was it good that we bombed Cambodia? Was it good that we went to war with Vietnam? Was it good that we went to war with Korea? My point is that all of these wars suck. The last good war that we had was World War II. It's because we were fighting the Nazis. We were killing the Nazis.
But they pushed
that was
wars
awesome.
that aren't correct for the proper reason, right? So today, it's not even classified. You can look up Operation Mockingbird. Former intelligence directors just simply, after they're done with their career, transition into roles as a, air quote, senior contributor at some sort of media network, whatever that may be, Fox, CNN, some Hollywood shit, some Disney, whatever, and then they work on these boards.
Are you talking about Oliver
don't
North?
Just do this with media stuff either. They can go and sit on a trusted
Because that's awesome.
Big tech or big pharma.
You should talk about Oliver North, bro.
Retire all the time. They push a massive contract right before a career military general's about to retire, and then they get hired by that same exact company. I mean, doesn't that obviously sound shady? Can you connect the dots here? They pushed a contract, and then they got out of the military, then they got paid for that. It's all under the table. So now, moving on from that. Let's talk about the digital aspect to it, because this is the biggest and most common one that us everyday people are going to be visibly seeing with our own eyes. You know, the consensus you'll see online, it's not real a lot of the times. So when a new current thing is launched, like right now with Iran, you know, we need to go to a war with Iran because XYZ reasons, and it's like, what are you talking about? Going to war with Iran helps destabilize China? That doesn't even make sense. That's what I've actually seen. But whenever the new current thing is launched, intelligence contractors...
Well, no, it's not that it doesn't make any sense. It actually does make sense. It's just that it is wrong. You know, well, maybe I am being, like, semantic here, okay? But the reason it's important is because China will survive this, but it's still going to harm them, okay? And it's also going to majorly harm Iran, most of all, of course. You know, most important to us, though, it is going to harm our country immensely. It's going to result in a lot of people dying unnecessarily. Just like every other war since World War II.
PR firms, defense firms, mostly the intelligence communities, though, they put out massive bot farms. So I've seen this all the time. People are like, this is a bot, that's a bot. Well, let me explain to you exactly how this works. So we'll just picture it like this. Imagine a big room, or even like a warehouse.
Full of cell phones,
yeah. Operating thousands of AI-generated accounts, complete with backstories and conversational cadence. They can keep up a conversation really well. AI is a little bit further than people think. You know, ChatGPT and all that shit, it's further than that. The military and all that stuff, they're always like 10 or 15 years ahead of the civilian sector? I'm not totally sure, but they have tech, not even just with AI. Technology's advanced way further than they even let on before they even tell us.
He's right about this.
But anyways, a script is ran with these AI-generated bot farm accounts, and then suddenly there's 50,000 fake profiles.
At the same time, though, they could have had this technology for 20 years. What we're seeing now with, like, ChatGPT and whatnot, so... You know, who knows? Who knows how long the internet has been fake?
They're
hard to say.
A pro-war hashtag.
I mean, I think that they only could have done it at a much smaller scale, and probably on like right-wing forums. That would probably be the target for using like bot farms in the old days, because there is a clear incentive structure for the CIA to try and push young men into doing terrorism, into killing people, and into doing mass shootings. I believe that if they had this AI technology back then, they could have been using it to do that, to radicalize these young men. Yup.
This is especially prevalent on Reddit, if you don't believe me. Go look it up, okay? I want you to think critically here. That's I tell my audience all the time. One guy, he said something to me in the comments. He was like, provide sources or I'm not going to take you seriously. And I've said it in my videos before. I want you to do the research yourself. I'll tell you everything. And it sounds kind of like a lazy cop-out answer, but if you find something different, then you find something different. If you find what I'm saying is true, then awesome. Or just go ask another comment.
Yeah, I mean, I say something similar, but actually not really. Because anytime somebody calls me out in my comments, all I ask is that you be specific. Okay, if I say, I'm not going to list a source for everything I say. That's going to take me way too much time with the output that I do. But if you come into my comments and you say, hey, this sounds incorrect, or you provide counter sources, I will have a conversation with you. I will provide sources if you ask for them. Okay, that's what you have to do. All you have to do is type the word source with a question mark, or not even with a question mark, and hit reply. Okay, and that's all I need. But again, it does have to be about something specific, right? So if you just say source and you hit post, I'm not going to know what you're asking for a source for something that I said. Like, you have to be specific. So like if we're having a conversation and I say something in a comment and you reply to that comment with source, you know, that I might be able to be like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're referring to. But that's how this shit works. Okay, Jimmy talks. What you just said, it actually is a lazy cop-out answer, because you should be prepared to back up what you say with sources. Okay, even as a political commentator, if you're gonna fucking make claims on the internet, left and right, yeah, you should be prepared to provide a source. And if you can't, then you should be prepared to apologize and like correct the record. Because I've said things that are incorrect before. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I believe I've done it, and commenters have called me out for it. And I was like, you know, I said something misleading, my bad. You know, it happens occasionally. As long as it's not like routine, as long as it doesn't happen all the time. I'm very rigorous in my research, and I try to paint an accurate picture of what's going on in the world, my perspective on it, my train of thought. But I'm not perfect. I do get things wrong sometimes. But I don't think I've ever crossed a boundary where like it's completely unacceptable and like I should just, you know, throw all of my videos in the trash, okay, like my haters want me to. So anyway.
But anyways, this isn't even like a trust me bro sort of thing. But anyways, they run a
but it is though. You're just telling people like, oh, go fucking Google it yourself. Like, that's a trust me bro. It is. If somebody asks you to provide sources on something specific that you said, like let's say you said Somalians are scammers, okay, you should be prepared to back that up with evidence and have a conversation about said evidence and why you think that Somalis are scammers. Okay, Somalis, not Somalians. Okay, if you can't do that, then you know, yeah, you are just basically saying, trust me, bro. That's what you're doing.
Suddenly, all these profiles are saying the same thing, and on Reddit, they're mass downvoting anybody who is a dissident voice, and then they create sort of what is like an optical illusion. You remember that stuff at the fair? You would walk in and
yeah,
the
mirror house.
Like, oh shit, I ran into a mirror. It's like an optical illusion like that. It makes it look like the entire country agrees with the regime. It's designed to make you feel isolated and crazy. That's the point of why they do that. So this raises the question then: why is the modern public so vulnerable to this manipulation? You know, it doesn't seem like Americans were always just stupid cattle
back in the tank so
before
fast.
We were controlled by you know who.
How is he firing
but anyways,
so
let's
fast?
look at the pre-programming, because that's where it really all starts. Very important interview I got you guys to all watch whenever you get the chance to. 1984, a KGB defector, Yuri Bezmenov, he explained the concept of ideological
gameplay.
So what he said was that the Soviet strategy for taking on America, it wasn't necessarily
I'm not going to show this shit in my video.
But it was actually a decades-long psychological process that's aimed at demoralizing the youth.
He's just, for the viewers watching my video, okay, he's just playing Grand Theft Auto 5, but I think he's using cheats, but not in an obvious way. Like, I think he's trying to hide it a little bit. He's trying to make it look legitimate. Okay, but he just like he keeps ordering tanks and then just killing police with the tank, and I don't know, he is decent at trailing his shots on these helicopters, but that's pretty much it. It's
education
lame.
system. For example, our public schools and universities have spent the last, I don't know, 50 years probably, dismantling critical thinking, critical thought, and replacing it with actually just obedience.
Wait.
Let's say, for example,
Say that
years
again.
Probably
Say that again.
For example, our public schools and universities have spent the last, I don't know, 50 years.
50 years. 50 years. 50 years? Are you sure? Are you sure it's been 50? Exactly 50? Give or take? Like, how many years? Give or take how many years exactly? How long ago was the year 1980? Are you understanding? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Wait. What happened to our education in the 1980s, and who did it? I don't know.
Dismantling critical thinking,
that's a head scratcher,
and replacing it with actually just obedience. Let's say, for example, you're in a college class and you have a very liberal professor. Well, if you whatever the topic they give you to write a paper on, that's obviously pushing their agenda. If you write a paper arguing against that, like let's say you write something that's right wing in nature, but they want you to obviously have a left wing take on it, they're going to give you an F, they're going to give you a D, they're going to give you a C if you're lucky enough to get a passing grade from them. But that's basically the hardware for a computer, like we were talking about earlier. That's just installed, so the state could just later get it back from you. They installed it, and now it's got to be downloaded onto you. Does that make sense? I hope that analogy makes a little bit more sense. So, anyways, second.
Yeah, well, look, man, a lot of like right-wing thinking, it innately carries with it logical fallacies. Okay, what he's talking about here is sort of like what they were talking about when that girl wrote that essay about fucking Jesus or whatever, and the teacher flunked her. The teacher gave her an F on the assignment. Or like maybe even a 0 or something, and she was like very descriptive in like what was wrong with the essay, and the fucking conservatives went bananas over it. They went nuts because she gave this one student an F because she wrote a dog shit essay that was like actual garbage. Like I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have written some shit like that in the 3rd grade, okay? I would have wrote better shit when I was like 8 years old.
They intentionally atomize society.
And so this was a college student.
They systematically eroded the nuclear family and traditional faith. Everybody goes to church on Sundays and whatnot, and the community is really tight and everybody knows each other, yada yada. That's mostly gone to the wayside now. They've actually created a generation of consumers. Buy the current thing and then get excited to consume the next thing. When you strip the people of a religious framework and also their heritage with globalism, we need to mass import 10 quadrillion people, and then you also get rid of the family unit. It just develops a desperate psychological need to belong to a herd, because humans are herd animals. Back in the day, if you were kicked out of the tribe or the herd, like I'm talking about the hunter-gatherer days, you're probably going to die because you're by yourself. It takes like 10 guys to go hunt a buffalo with a spear. If you're by yourself, it's just not going to happen. So that's why humans have that belonging, sense of belonging, social. So the current thing basically serves as a synthetic religion for this atomized class of people that we have nowadays. It has the unchallenged dogmas. This is the religious dogma. It's like, let's say you're Catholic or Orthodox. There's dogmas to the church. There's the iron rules. This is what we believe in. Well, the synthetic religion for creating the current thing, one example of this for during COVID is trust the science. Trust the science. You've seen this on all of the buses, billboards, ads. The New York City mayor, Bill de Blasio, he like ate a cheeseburger. He's like, yeah, this is so good. If you get your COVID shot, you can have a burger and fries. I was like, what the fuck, bro? You have to really encourage people.
You shouldn't trust the science itself. Okay, well, actually, sorry, you should trust the science itself. Okay, like, trust the scientific process and scrutinize the scientists when they present a narrative, right? A hypothesis. Okay, scientists, the way that they do things is they create a hypothesis and they try to repeat it. Okay? And this is basically, like, I'm boiling it down, but this is what all of science is. Okay, there's this whole scientific method. Maybe you've heard of it. Okay, I'm sure you have. So, like, it's not that you should distrust science, and it's not that you should trust scientists. You should trust the scientific method, okay? And that's why you say stuff like, do your own research. Okay, but here's the thing. There are these things called scientific communities, where scientists of the same field, they get together and they form, unanimous opinions, consensus. Okay, so if you have a team of researchers, of scientists, who say this vaccine is safe enough for public distribution, and we think this because of the results from clinical trials. That is science that you can trust. Okay, you can look at the research and the data yourself. You can scrutinize it. But what we saw during COVID was a lot of misinformation about these vaccines going around. Side effects that they didn't have, that people didn't experience. The COVID-19 vaccine was a profoundly safe vaccine given the circumstances. And it wasn't any more dangerous than the average vaccine for other diseases. So yes, it carries a risk to it, but it's better for society overall if we all get vaccinated. And this is an idea that has existed and has been proven to be true time and time again since we started making vaccines. Okay, like the polio vaccine, it killed people. It paralyzed people. People died because of the polio vaccine. No vaccine is perfect. But do you know what the polio vaccine did? It saved millions of lives. It stopped millions of people from being paralyzed for life. It was a good thing, even though it killed people. You know, it's sad what happened to the few that died. It is, but relatively speaking, we would be worse off as a species having not done it.
People to get the shot by giving them a free burger. Well, is it actually life-saving then? Because if it was life-saving, you probably wouldn't have to convince people with a fucking burger and fries. But anyways, it has original sin as well. You know, you're privileged. You're a privileged white person. You have privilege. That's your original sin. It has high priest as well. I am a scientist. I have credentials. Even though my credentials are wrong and it's off of a biased and paid-off study, my credentials mean I'm right anyways. It's like, do you have a PhD in this subject, Chud? Do you know what you're talking about, buddy? Like, shut the fuck up. I should slap you. But anyways, it also practices the strict excommunication part through cancel culture. We've seen all that during the first Trump term when cancel culture was at its height. So for the NPC, changing a profile picture to solid black or a Ukrainian flag, it's not just political moves. It's actually a secular sacrament, so to say. It just proves an artificial sense of moral superiority. So if you or I attempt to create this illusion and build a real audience of thinkers, the system then escalates to no longer just thought processes, it now escalates to enforcement. Now, what is their enforcement? Well, the first one is censorship, and especially in the information age, this is very important. The alphabet agencies, they work directly with tech companies to shadow ban people. They don't delete your account, which would make you a martyr and actually make you wake up. They just simply throttle your reach so your factual analysis goes unseen. There was a big glitch with Grok on Twitter, and it even showed that my account was being throttled because apparently I'm a bunch of bad things, right? People who've seen it, they've seen it, but that was pretty fucking crazy to actually see. But then after that, they don't just go with the shadow ban, it could be financial deplatforming as well. Your Patreon account has been banned because you said the wrong things. That's a big one with content creators. This is basically the soft launch of the Western social credit system like they have in China. Your social credit score will go down. Ding, 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 ding. Bong, you're a bad person. And then we also seen it in Canada during COVID. The Canadian trucker convoy, they were shutting people's bank accounts down for protesting. You know, they didn't just silence the protesters. They had emergency powers invoked to freeze their bank accounts. You know, what? They use this to silence the payment process.
Fucking
money makes the world go
garbage
round. You don't have any money.
Fortnite.
You have a different problem to deal with now. You can't really go out and be a political dissident. So if you oppose the current thing, the ultimate threat is losing your ability to participate in the economy, which you kind of have to do. So what is the rational response to this psychological matrix? All this crazy shit that we're going through. Seriously. First, I would say you need to have a little bit of emotional detachment when it comes to these things. Unplug from the 24-hour news cycle, the outrage cycle, and I have to do this myself all the time. I bring you guys some news, talk about current events and all that.
Yeah, guys, look away. Shield your eyes. You don't need to be knowing what's going on. Just stay ignorant.
I have to take a break too. You know, you need to recognize that the vast majority of what is presented
Stop
to you
paying
and all
attention.
that, it's scripted theater, and it's designed to take your attention away. And whether you know it or not, your attention is actually a currency. And, you know, you're indirectly financing all this bullshit with your mental health, your mental energy, your attention. So just don't pay attention to them sometimes. Just unplug if you have to.
Okay, I want to also point out that his duo here is All My Ops Dead 88. Okay, 88, of course, being an abbreviation for Heil Hitler. Okay, just so you know. Yeah, but anyway, these same people will be like, how dare you call us Nazis? How dare you? When my fucking Fortnite username is All My Ops Dead Heil Hitler.
That's kind of like a not really the catch-all solution. So I'm not done here yet. What I do personally, this is the second thing that I do. I ruthlessly apply.
Oh no, I was born in 1988. That's what it is.
I ask myself one question all the time from a straight analytical and objective, no bias or emotion standpoint. How does this benefit the American family? Does funding the Iron Dome in Israel secure our borders? No. Does sending tanks to Ukraine lower the cost of living? No. So basically, if it doesn't benefit America, I just reject it. You know, I've had people, they call me an isolationist. It's like, not really. I don't really care for that. Basically, what they're doing is they're calling you names. But I don't really care about the names that they call us anymore because the insults of a hypnotized person just doesn't really carry any weight to me. So after that, another thing that I do is that I just look at the reality of the uniparty. We've all seen that. People said it 10 million times. Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't really matter. They're all voting for the same thing. Obviously, this one's pretty common knowledge. Just look past their superficial debates over tax brackets or social issues. You can see this Facebook boomers arguing this all the time. The Democrats and then the Redditors, the Republicans. It's like, are we really stuck in this frame of thinking still? You'd be surprised. Yeah, a lot of people really are. But when it comes to the core pillars of the regime, which is funding the military-industrial complex or maintaining the, air quote, special relationship or expanding the surveillance state, both of them tend to always agree on those sorts of things. Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, they're both in different parties with different POVs, apparently, but they operate as a united front regardless when it comes to certain issues. The current thing is the underlying glue of the establishment. But lastly, and one of the most important things here, it's very important to me, and I think you should do it as well. You can hear how my voice changed up in the tone. Really take this into account. You need to cultivate your own vitalism. If you're grounded in your faith and your family and your physical capability, because you're going to the gym, like I've told you 20, 30 trillion times now if you watch the channel, and if you're also rooted in your ancestral heritage, you can't really be easily manipulated by this stuff. If you're eating healthy food and you're praying and you fast sometimes and you go to the gym and you make sure your family's taken care of, you're going to see a lot of this and you're going to be like, well, that's fucking dumb. You're not going to really be as easily manipulated anymore. You would be a rock in a stream. Let's give you another analogy. You're a rock in a stream. You're a rock. The rock doesn't move. The water just keeps going past it. You don't move. It's a bunch of rocks and waves are heavier. But the NPC is a leaf that's in the water. The leaf just gets carried away. You need to be the rock that doesn't move. Don't get carried away by this stuff. Because ultimately, when the current thing is deployed, the NPC is the leaf, and they just go along with whatever they
Water off a duck's back.
But you will be able to objectively identify the patterns here, and then you'll be like, hey, who benefits from this? Does America benefit? Nope, well, I don't like it then. Simple as that. So basically, to sum all of this up, the regime just demands the quiet consumers, the leaf people, pay your taxes, don't question anything, wave the authorized flag of the month, say the line, Bart, democracy, something like that. And then you need to also submit to them in their will in the managed decline of our country. I refuse to give them their compliance, and I also reject the guilt associated with this. I got yelled at by people in person during the whole COVID thing. I had someone get in my face and yell about me not wearing a mask. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to play into all that. First of all, get the fuck away. I actually said that to this person. But I was
I don't like
thinking to
that.
myself after, if you're so mad about me not wearing a mask, why are you standing an inch away from my face? Wouldn't that defeat the purpose? Well, that doesn't really matter. It's a compliance test. The guy who doesn't wear the mask is the bad person. The biggest psyop we ever had was COVID, and I'm not going to forget about that. They were calling for the unvaxxed to be purged and killed. But anyways, you need to focus on your reality and your people and your country. Don't get swayed.
Yeah, those people were serious.
Okay, that's all for me today, guys. Because analyzing our greatest ally
They
and
wanna-
the
they wanna
intelligence
kill
bot and
us.
shill farms are kind of topics that trigger
We are
algorithmic
Charlie
suppression,
Kirk.
even on YouTube. You need to follow me on Twitter and Rumble because that is where I'm able to speak a little bit more freely. I've gotten suspended on Twitter 4 or 5 times now already, but regardless, it's a little bit better than YouTube. So the link is in the description down below. If you want to follow me on there, I appreciate it. And I'll ask you too, because,
if you get suspended on Twitter, that's crazy work, bro. That's wild.